Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. I hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about a piece of property, and we're just going to talk, you and me, right? And if you're here with your significant other drinking a cup of coffee, then cool. If you're not drinking coffee because it's not the morning, sit back and enjoy this because we're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about emotions when it comes to buying real estate. Now, I've been eyeing a property that just went off the market. We're going to talk about that, the psychology of the buyer and the seller. We are coming down off the tail end of a market frenzy. The blow off top in real estate sales is identical. Well, I can't say identical because we have much worse, much larger, much worse on the backside of this crash for real estate, but it's very similar to 2005, 2006, whereas we had inventory depleting and we had that last push of buyers that, let's say, weren't the smartest buyers. They didn't see the writing on the wall, but because of emotions drove them into the market. So right now we're seeing the tail end of that. It's starting to wane because interest rates are exploding, right? And I do believe, not financial advice, none of this is financial advice. Don't take it as financial advice. It's just to do with a bro hawk and a dream. But when we're talking about real estate, there's a lot of emotion involved. When you are ready to rock and roll and you see a picture or a video, a 3D image of that property online and it just came on the market and you go, man, this would be perfect for me or my family or my future family, then that's one thing. Then you get your real estate agent, you go and look at the property. That's a whole nother thing. A lot of emotions tied up into that, right? And we've been seeing that with buyers, especially, you guys especially. You heard of the story when we were outbid on a property by 100 grand. I go, that's just ludicrous. I'm not going to pay that much. I'm not going to be a part of the craziness. But that property, regardless of how expensive it is in relative to past real estate valuations, worked well for me because I was going to make a lot of money in tax write-offs and some other, I was going to turn a real estate liability into an asset, which not a lot of people think about, right? But I've been an investor in real estate since 2001, and so I would take a liability and make it pay for itself, not only in income, multiple streams of income. This place would have made 3 streams, but also in write-offs. All right, so that's a whole nother stream of income people don't think of, specific write-offs, and it wasn't this. This was agriculture. So I saw that and I saw the frenzy, and I remember talking to a real estate agent saying, well, why did they pay 100 grand over? And he said, because they've gotten outbid so many times that they just went for this one. And I'm like, man, that was a rough decision. Now, right now, like 90 days, 120 days later, after they bought that house, they're feeling pretty good. They're looking around, they're saying homes are going up, but actually that's not very, for much longer, let's say. And we're going to see this bottom fall out. You're already seeing it all over the headlines with the news stories about the real estate market is doomed. There's all this FUD. And I actually told you guys that a couple of months ago. I said by the end of spring, you're going to start seeing an explosion in FUD headlines because this mortgage rate just keeps going up and it's going to get worse. Not only do you have, the bond market putting pressure on mortgage rates with the 10-year bond exploding in value, but you also have the Federal Reserve in a long-term, supposedly, I don't think they're going to be able to make it, in a rate hike environment, right? So that's one thing. You have the stress and the FOMO of the buyer. Now let's talk about the seller, because I had my eye on another piece of property that I wanted to start a tree farm on, right? Why? Because I don't have enough things to do with my life. But I wanted to de-stress. And Mrs. Ninja said, you need to get back to the basics. You got a lot going on your plate. I didn't know that the YouTube channel would explode like this. Thank you to all of you that watch. You are the reason, not me. Hey, I'm just a dude with a bro hawk and a dream. So it's you, not me. But, I got a lot going on. And she goes, you need to get back to your roots and start planting trees again. I just love it. I feel like John Denver in a John Denver song, plant a tree. Anyway, sorry, I'm not going to sing for you guys. But my point being is I needed to get back to the earth and I need to start digging holes and, plowing fields. And I love that stuff. I truly love that. I've told people for the last 15 years, I don't care if I'm a billionaire, I will own a palm tree farm. So we've been looking at properties. Well, we're looking at a property that was overpriced, right? Now, I'm not going to pay too much for the real estate. I'm going to let the real estate come to me, right? Under the right scenario. The only thing difference between, me buying it today and tomorrow is the price and my patience level, if that makes sense. Well, this property was sitting at a certain valuation. I believe it was overpriced by about 22%, 23%, and they just took it off the market. Now, an interesting thing is I knew some of the real estate agents involved in this transaction. I called the listing agent. I said, okay, what's the story? And they said, we got pretty overzealous and we priced it high. And that shock a long time ago, because the property's been on the market for 9 months, it was too much for the market to handle. And quite frankly, if it was ironically, and this is probably what's going to happen, I'm going to explain it, but if they would have priced it now at that price, it would have sold right away, right? So the property was taken off the market, and it was taken off the market for two different reasons. Another thing I asked about, and I'm going to get to those two reasons, is where are the buyers at? What is their mindset? And they go, they want to leave the state. I said, I can't blame you. But they want to leave the state. And I already knew how much equity they had in the property, and they needed a certain amount of equity to leave because the other states are blowing up in value too, right? So they needed to get close to their asking price. That just wasn't going to happen. So there's a couple tricks the real estate agents play. And one of them is to pull it off the market and then bring it back on after, let's say 30 days, 60 days as a new listing, right? New listing, and it's like all of a sudden all these real estate agents that were real estate agents 30 or 60 days ago, like miraculously either forgot, or what happens is the public has no clue and they go, new listing, and there's a frenzy, right? And that does work 99% of the time, to be honest with you, in a bull market. And picking a new price point, right? They were at, let's say, I don't want to tell you guys the price, I don't want to give it away, but you want to price yourself in the 99, 98,000 range, right? When you're priced at like 25 or 30,000 over that, like it's a human psychological threshold, right? And so when you're pricing your stuff, it's like when, a store says, hey, it's $9.99. Well, technically you're paying $10 for it, but you don't realize you're paying $10. It sounds funny. And everybody watching this video goes, well, I do. You'd be surprised, because actually 99% of the public does not understand that, right? So those psychological thresholds for pricing are very important when it comes to real estate sales too. So coming back in onto the market, very close, but right underneath that psychological threshold where it's at 98,000 instead of popping over that 100,000 threshold. That's a very important deal, right? So that's probably going to help sell it. But here's the problem. 30 days from now, I believe that the real estate market is going to look completely different than it is now. What I mean by that is I believe that you're going to see more and more inventory hitting the market. See, people are still not talking about the facts that there is still a lot of people unemployed, and some of those people did not have, or they had mortgages. They weren't renters, they had mortgages. And we know that because, the forbearance numbers, and they're small. I don't remember that off the top of my head, but there's still forbearance out there. So I think some of those are going to get converted into sales, right? Because banks are going, hey, look, we're going to do this. We're going to have to pull the plug on you. We're going to start they're sending these notices out right now. And a lot of them are going to go, hey, we'll just sell, right? Some of them are going to refi, but some are going to sell. So it's going to add to some pressure. Also, all of these news stories that we've been talking about that are coming out now, like the market's crashing, or the bonds keep rising, the mortgages keep rising, people cannot buy houses, right? And we're also seeing a lot of headlines, and they're true. Prices are starting to come down. People are shaving $10,000, $20,000 off their homes just to try and compete with the guys next to them. So what's happening is the buyers are now seeing all of these headlines because they're completely immersed. You want a house, you're completely immersed. Trust me, I know the feeling when I bought my first house. Man, there's a lot of emotion tied to it. So you're seeing all of these things. Well, on the flip side, real estate sellers are also seeing these headlines too, and they're starting to get nervous. And so some of them are going to choose to move now. I was just speaking with someone, a guy that I've known for 26 years, and he said he just sold his house in December. I'm like, man, did you nail it? And he goes, yeah, we did. And I said, why did you sell? And he goes, we sold because we felt that this was the top, or we're close to it, and we decided to pull out our cash and sit back and rent and be patient. And I said, man, in 2006, if you would have done that, and you would have waited 4 years till 2010 to buy, you would be blown away with what. And he goes, yeah, I know it, because we're in one of the most expensive real estate jurisdictions in the nation, right? So he knew this. Now, this isn't financial advice. None of this is financial advice, okay? If you take financial advice from a dude up against this weird building with a bro hawk like this, and he's in his 40s, you've got more problems. I'm just going to say, the judge will probably laugh at you. So, but he made the decision. I believe there's many more people that are lining up to make that decision right now. Even if they want to move to another location, they're going, you know what, I'll sell right now, I'll harness my money, and then I'm going to go ahead and make my move when the crash happens. Now, the thing is, I talked to this gentleman and I said, well, what are you going to do what are you doing? Inflation's destroying your money. And he goes, I know. And gold came up, and he goes, well, how do I do that? So I shared with him some stuff, because he goes, I don't want to store it at my house. So I actually shared with him, and I'll probably pop into this, a couple of links to companies that professionally store gold, purchase it for you. You could purchase gold and send it to them. Huge companies have been around forever, for a long time. But that's his mindset, right? A seller. Well, going back to this house, they're probably thinking, hey, we still want to move. This is crazy town, and we want to sell our house. So we're going to pull it off the market for 30 days, 30, 45 days. And I guarantee you some of these real estate agents involved are watching this. So I'm not going to tell them anything. And they are going to set off to the sideline and wait, and then they're going to relist it. But the problem is, where's that 10-year bond going to be in 30 days? Quite frankly, this isn't financial advice, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 6% on average mortgage by this summer. I wouldn't be surprised. The pressures on the bond market and on the mortgage industry right now are pretty intense, and bankers themselves are starting to go, we need to start pricing in risk. We can't just start giving out loans to everybody right now, because I don't think the banks believe also that homes can keep rising. We've had lumber prices exploding. We've had supply chain delays. What's gonna give the incentive to the consumer, the average consumer, to just keep gobbling up these homes? All right. So I believe that this may be a totally different turning point. Now, to close this out, I think this is the most important part. That seller that pulled their house off the market, they can get nervous. And they can start to become, instead of going like my buddy that sold his house and he's sitting put, these sellers might turn around and go, you know what, we want to leave to another state, but we're afraid if we don't sell now, we can't capture the most amount of appreciation, the highest amount of appreciation. So we're going to go ahead and bite the bullet, drop our house price and sell, and then just sort of stay put, stay somewhere in our local area. The problem is, I think in about 30 to 60 days, and save this, timestamp this video, I think you're going to see a lot of people make that same decision, which means inventories are going to increase. Does that mean it's a time to buy? No, you have to buy when it's right for you and not right for the seller, all right? Because like I said, 2006, by the time I was selling all my real estate and screaming, run for the hills, the market's going to crash, it didn't bottom till 2010. That's 4 years, guys. We've got a long time to go. But what's amazing during these times, and it's going to be a couple year transition, you allow those home prices to come to you. And when you start to buy, because I'm going to tell you when I'm buying, like hand over fist, I'm talking hundreds of homes, it's not going to be, you guys were smart, everyone's going to say you're nuts. Trust me, that's coming, guys. All right, with that being said, hopefully you got something out of this. If you did, please hit the subscribe button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button twice. Make sure I got the message really good. And the Economic Ninja is out.